everyone. Today we'll be looking at a quick basic form in HTML which uses HTML, JavaScript and CSS. So this form here is very simple. We'll get a little bit of CSS here up in the top in the head section, followed by the form in HTML and a little bit of JavaScript at the bottom for a basic function we're going to run. So starting off, we just named this page basic HTML form for the tutorial. You can name it whatever you like. Going into the CSS here on the HTML, we set the entire background to light grey. This just makes a nice grey tan behind every bit of contrast. Hashtag form1, the ID form1, that is used here for the form itself. We've made the form itself blue, so nice light sky blue there. Aligned everything in the center, added some extra padding to the bottom to make it equal to the top. Down here we have the positioning, so it's set to absolute, with the top and the left at 50% to make it center in the page. And the transform translate here, that just offsets the position, counting for the actual size of the form itself. So if you just have it as top left 50%, what it'll do is it'll offset by that much, but it won't factor in how big the actual form itself is. So using the transform translate function, it'll account for that. Looking at the input boxes here, all we've done is set the fixed width at 20%, and also relative a percentage width, and height at 20 pixels, fixed height, as that's just as big as it needs to be for this form. You can set that to whatever you like, or percentage if that's what you want. And then the margins, top left and right, are set to 5% just for a bit of spacing, but you can set those whatever you want as well. Padding, I've just put a basic 2 pixel padding around all of the input boxes, just for a bit of extra room around the text. The border is set to black, and the border width is 2 pixels as well. You can either get rid of the borders, or you can make them bigger, smaller, change the color, it's up to you. And I've aligned it all in the center with the text align center function. The button at the bottom, I've made it the margin on the top 5% just to lower it away from those input boxes a bit. And the width of the button is going to be 100 pixels, and the height is going to be 30. The background's nice lime green, which goes well with the blue and grey, and I'll just turn the border off as it looks better. Down here in the HTML, in the body section, we've got the form itself there, and a div around it. That div around it's just for the formatting a little bit. And then the form itself in here, on submit, it's going to run the function called run. And we also have here what's called return false. So when you do that, that just means that the page itself won't refresh. Therefore, when you submit the form, it'll actually display whatever you put out because if you didn't have that, the page itself would refresh and whatever it outputted would just disappear. Alrighty, so the title for the form is going to be just basic form with a nice H1 tag there. And then below that we've got the inputs. So we've got first name, last name, gender, and date of birth. All the types have been set to text, just across the board. That's just nice and easy to work with. And for this situation, I've turned autocomplete off. But you can set that to on if you would like to have autocomplete available to use. And down the bottom here, we have the button, which is just type equals submit, which is where the on submit comes into up here. And the name of the button in this case, which is submit. Down below here, we have the div. We've added a div, which is still inside of that blue div box there. Actually, wait, no, sorry. It's in the div box, but it's outside of the blue. So the blue is going to be the form, and the message will be on the grey, just to make it a bit more clear. The div with the ID message here, that's just going to be the output for the form itself. Down here in the script for the JavaScript here, we've just set all the global variables up here that we're going to use. So the first name, last name, gender, date of birth, and the message. In this section in the input, so we've got a function called input here. The first name is going to be equal to document.getElement by ID first name, which is the ID of the box in the input, so the input there, dot value. And this dot value part is very important because that gets what's actually inside the input box. And that's been done again for all the other options in the form. The section function is called process, and this function is where we get all that data from above and put it into a string for outputting. So the message is going to be equal to welcome, and as you can see, we've left a space in here, as the variables won't give a space themselves. So welcome, the first name, plus then a space between the first and last name, plus, and then we have a full stop there for the first sentence. And then after that, we added a space. Your gender is plus their gender from the form, plus your date of birth is and their date of birth from the form. And down here in function output, it's very simple. It's the same as getting an element, so document.getElement by ID. In this case, it's message, which is the output function here, message, dot inner text. So doing that means it inserts it into instead of pulling it out of. And we're going to set that equal to this message there. And then function run down the bottom just runs all three of those: input, process, output. Alrighty, so if we take a look at the form, basic form here, so we say the first name is going to be John, the last name can be Doe, set the gender to male, and the date of birth can be the 1st of the 11th, 2000. We'll submit that. Then up the top here, on the grey, you'll see the message which appears: welcome John Doe, the first name with a space and the last name, full stop. Your gender is male. Sorry for my bad spelling there. It should be male. And your date of birth is the 1st of the 11th, 2000. And there you have it. A nice simple form using basic CSS and JavaScript. Have a good day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.